highlight this week, we have Reece Palmer on Inside Word. You're now a fourth year player of the club, and I guess back in '09 had a serious knee injury and recovered from that. But this week, 50 games for yourself, so congratulations to you, mate. Did you think it was going to come as quick, or did you think after the knee op that you weren't really sure when you were going to play 50 games?
Yeah, I remember when I first got to the club, Paul Hazelwood said, look, there's going to be lots of ups and downs through your career, and so just make the most of it while you're here and yeah, just enjoy it. And I remember playing the first 20 games of the season and everything was going right. Was playing all right and found, like, you know, cemented my spot in the starting 18, and then obviously played the first 5 of '09 and then came down with a serious knee injury. So football was really easy up until that stage, and then obviously with the serious knee injury, it's taken its toll. But look, I'm still trying to work my way back, and look, it's been a good experience.
It's probably fair to say that's not one of your highlights of your career, but certainly something that, from a mental perspective, to get through and then get back out, it's a tremendous effort. But what would be your highlight thus far?
Yeah, the highlight probably obviously playing your first game with Chris Vane was probably a big highlight. We came to the club together, done the first pre-season together, and then yeah, playing the same game for our first was pretty exciting. And a highlight now is just probably where the team's at. I think it's going to be really exciting, especially this year and then next couple of years to come, with the list that we've got, the mix between the older players and the younger players, and got a really good balance there.
Go back a couple of years. What do you remember of your 2008 NAB Rising Star year? Obviously it was a tremendous year coming onto the scene and playing some great football. So what can you tell us about that year and what you remember of it?
I remember we still had a lot of the older boys. We still had Matty Carr, Peter Bell, Shawnee Mack, Josh Carr was there. So we still had a really good mix of only a few young boys, but a lot of older boys. So we thought we were going to have a really crack at the premiership that year, and it actually turned out not too well. I think we lost 10 games under 10 points or something that year. So we had a few wins that we should have won went the wrong way. So it was quite a disappointing year, but personally it was good to play so many games and run through the midfield there, and especially play alongside of the greats. Matty Pavlich was in there. Peter Bell, who a couple of premierships he's won, and then Shawnee Mack and Matty Carr and Josh Carr also won a premiership as well. So it's good to run around with those boys.
Yeah, going back to, I guess, the disappointing 2008 year with the knee reconstruction, how did you handle that disappointment? What were the things that you put in place to, I just get your head around the fact that you were going to be out of football for a long period of time?
Yeah, probably the first couple of weeks wasn't the best. You just miss training, the little things like running around, having a kick with your mates. Then game day when we were playing, driving to the game knowing that you weren't going to play and you were injured and stuff out for the rest of the year. So I probably took a bit of adjusting to get used to those two things. But once I got up and going again, you start training, and you just it's like pre-season for the whole year pretty much, which I don't mind because I like training. And so it was good to get back into the routine of training again. It was just the first couple of weeks when I wasn't allowed to do too much, laying down, watching TV. I'm not sort of that sort of person. I like to get out and about. So to sit down, not be able to do anything, and knowing that you weren't going to play footy for the rest of the year was probably the hardest thing to adjust to.
Did you actually get away? Did you go overseas or a holiday? I know you mentioned that you had some time in the final series. You went on a bike ride. Did you do anything like that just sort of got your interest levels outside of football?
It was hard for the first couple of weeks because I was on crutches for 8 weeks. So I wasn't allowed to put any pressure on my legs, so I had to stay at the club, so that was probably a bit frustrating. But once I got up and running again, I went to Bali a couple of times with a few mates, and also I did this bike trip with Chris Scott, who's now at Geelong, and Chris Spinks, who was our sports and science in the sports and science department. So we got away. We just to the mountains in Melbourne, in Bright there, and rode up there, and just. It was more of like a little challenge for me, just because I was allowed to do a lot of riding when I had my knee, so I was just sort of working up to the end of the season, have something to aim for, and then once I got over there and yeah, taking on the hills. And
it's probably fair to say we've had some unlucky periods at this club with guys going through certain injuries and knee injuries, but two guys, obviously Maura Beto and Tim Ruffles. Have you had a chance just to talk to them through their recoveries as well? Obviously Tim's had two, so he's probably a little bit more experienced than you, but I'm sure you've been able to lend a hand to Morabito over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I've probably gotten closer to him with the two Neds, which is probably not a good thing. But obviously, you have that connection, and you know exactly what they're going through, and they know that you went through the same thing, so they can sort of relate to you. So look, I think you can say what you want, but you know, as long as you see them up and about at the club, that's what you want to see, and you don't want to see them down moping around or anything. So I've definitely got closer to them, and yeah, obviously just told them to keep their head up, and look, they'll be able to play footy in the near future. In
terms of your interests prior to playing AFL footy, was there any other things that you considered? I hear that you were very good at baseball. Is that something that you considered going down that path as well? Or? Yeah, for sure. I think like any Aussie kid, they love playing all different sports, from baseball to running, athletics, and I tried everything as a youngster, and obviously baseball was a summer sport, and I did quite enjoy it. Played a couple of state games for baseball and stuff coming through the ranks, and there was a time there that I did have to make a choice because baseball was going into the start of pre-season for footy, so footy was always number one for me, and so then that wasn't a big choice, but I'd like to go back to baseball maybe when I finish footy, as baseball, some of the blokes are 42 and still playing there, so I'd like to give it a crack after footy, and you never know. Now mate, you're obviously coming back into the side. You've played a number of different roles. A couple of weeks ago you had the opportunity to tag Gary Ablett. How did you find him? I know I had a chat with you after the game about him because I was watching from the stand, and mate, he's an amazing player. How did you find playing on him? Oh look, it was obviously a great experience, and I think Hales was more scared than I was when he first told me. Look, he's one of those players that he's going to play well each week, and he's always going to get his 30 touches, and for me I was just trying to minimise the damage that he was doing. The first quarter, I remember I thought I did a pretty good job on him, keeping his, he wasn't running with the ball or kicking any goals, and then I looked back and I think he had 9 touches, and then he pushed forward on Duffy and kicked the goal, so I sat back after the first and he had 9 touches and kicked 1, and I thought I did a pretty good job. So look, it was always going to be a tough challenge, but I learned a lot from him, just the way he moves through the contest, and his strength. So sort of where I want to get to as a football player, so it was good to see. Now this is hopefully a long time away, but I guess you've got to put some plans in place. Life after football, have you thought about that, or have you got some direction of where you want to head at the moment, or are you just contemplating, you know, what things you're interested in? Yeah, look, I'm trying to tick off a few things. I did a business course last year. I'm doing a property course this year, so like my property, so hopefully, well, maybe something around that, but hopefully I'll be in the business for a long time, 10 or so years, and then something finally pops up at the end of it, and yeah, I have the right qualifications to do it. Yeah, what are your goals for the rest of the season? What have you sort of put in place? Yeah, look, it's a hard one because you sort of changing positions and stuff every week, so sort of sometimes don't know where you fit in the side. So look, just to play, try and stay in the side, and keep fulfilling my role, whether it be tagging or playing the half forward role or playing through the midfield. Just a couple of quick questions to wrap it up. Best mate at the club? Best mate at the club probably have to be Greggy Broughton. Earliest memory of joining the club? Earliest memory? Probably obviously just being around all the boys, as in the older fellas, Peter Bell, Matty Pavlich, Shawnee Mack, the Carr brothers. Having them sitting next to you in the lockers is quite a big deal after watching them for so many years on TV. And if you could have one retired player come back and play in your 50th game this week, who would that be? Yeah, I'd probably have to be Shawnee Mack. He's still down at the club. I think he's fit enough. He trains more now than he did when he was playing. So I'd probably have him come back. He's probably been the biggest influence, football influence in my career. So if I could get him to come back and play alongside me, it would be pretty nice. He's one of the blokes that you'd love to go to war with. Mate, finally, best of luck for your 50th game this week, and all the best on being on Inside Word. Cheers, mate.